the moderator of this panel, somebody that we've gotten to know quite well here at EdCast, a great partner of ours and friend of ours from TCS. Ram Subramanian is a senior HR transformation leader, and he actually leads the entire human capital practice at TCS. We're thrilled to have him and the panel, and we're thrilled to be partnered with TCS. And with that, let me hand things over to Ram. Ram.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate the this opportunity, and we have a very interesting topic today. And our topic of the day is a frictionless digital transformation with the digital adoption platform. We have a wonderful panel of various industry leaders helping their organization. Digital transformation has been a very hot topic, and we see that part of our research and our conversations across the globe with our customers. We see that this is trending pretty high, especially in the new normal, in the pandemic. There's a huge amount of focus over, making transformations successful, as everyone doing some part of transformation of their customer side or HR or any of the critical functions within the organization, all going through some type of transformation. And part of our panel today, we have leaders from different, some of the largest, brands out there. And the leaders with me in the panel today actually are helping these companies to successfully organize their own transformation journeys. And I'd like to kick off this conversation today with some introductions. I'll start off Ashleigh, let's start with you with your introduction.
Sure. Great. Thank you so much. Ashleigh Sylvester. I'm with Abbvie. My role is the Digital Adoption Strategy Manager, and I have implemented our digital strategy across several of our clinical trial systems, clinical trial management systems.
Thank you, Ashleigh.
Mm-hmm.
With that, we'll move to Barbara. Hi, Barb.
Hello, everybody. Barbara Bridgford. I am the Director of Learning and Development at McKesson for our Customer Experience Operations unit. We are the largest operating group, and we service a lot of different distribution products for helping people heal themselves and be better. So we're a part of the pharmaceutical solutions team.
Next, we have Sherriann. Sherriann, please introduce yourself.
Yes, hello. Good morning or afternoon. Sherriann Hamilton. I'm a learning design lead with Humana, and we support virtually all of the clinical associates across Humana. So large percentage of them, of associates at Humana. And we are in the process of transitioning to a new clinical platform, and we are using the digital adoption technologies to assist with that.
Thank you, Sherriann. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate you being part of the channel. We have a very interesting set of topics we compiled today. I'd like to start the conversation with the first question. I think the very interesting question. This has been since the time that we picked this topic, and we have been conducting quite a bit of research in the last 18 months. One of the things that constantly came up in our research was the success of transformation projects. So what we learned through the success, what the customers have registered, this is a study that we conducted with Jaspers and Academy. We learned that there are only about 15% of the organization, counted their, key transformation project to actually achieve the expected results. And Ashleigh, I'd like to direct this question to you. What do you see there are some of the challenges in achieving success and transformation initiatives from your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. I would definitely say it's the pace at which we're changing these days. Processes, systems, we're constantly evolving and trying to keep up with that. And I think one of the things that we miss quite often is bringing our users along for the ride and making sure the user experience is there and helping them to really adhere to those processes and adopt those processes that are always changing. We tend to design systems around requirements, and those requirements tend to be more process-based and regulations and less focused on what the user is actually experiencing in the system. So I say we like to bring them in pretty late, but ultimately using a digital adoption platform has helped with that. So since we're changing at such a rapid pace, it's just hard to make sure that they're all aware of those changes and educated on those changes and understanding the why. It's hard for people to adopt a new way of doing things if it doesn't make sense. So they have to understand why we're making those changes.
Thank you, Ashleigh. That's pretty insightful. I think I also kind of constantly come across with these interviews that some of the projects that we come across as the one did not accounted themselves as success. The users have been brought in as an afterthought. And then there was also another change that we didn't see happen in some of these projects where constantly engaging them as as the whole transformation is changing, how the way in which that everyday work is getting organized. Let's go to Barbara to hear her perspective or this particular experience. Barbara, I'm going to twist it a little bit and ask a different aspect of this entire digital transformation success. We constantly hear about employee engagement and employee experience being top of mind of every organization right now. That becomes a very hot topic. And do you see is there a relation between employee experience and adoption? Are they related? Can you tell us your experience on this?
Yes, Ram, absolutely see a relationship between the two, experience and adoption. So at McKesson, when we think about our employee experience and their engagement, we have really tied our digital adoption strategy to that. We utilize digital adoption platforms across many employee functioning applications. So they absolutely get to engage with help when they need it. But from a project perspective, I would say from my group, we really try to think of the business functions at the very beginning of the project and who all can this solution touch. So there's some obvious ones, right? Like IT, they love it. It's super fast. It gives them more time to develop and test and pivot, be agile. You've got your HR folks that are constantly watching experience and engagement, your learning and development team, the trainers, the delivery team. Some organizations have a very structured change management process, and then ultimately your business leaders. And when we think about bringing those two things together and making them relate to each other, it's really important to us that at the very beginning, we're spelling out the benefits to each one of these groups, specifically through the lens and the journey that they see with the tool. So we ask a lot of questions. We ask for their input. We put them on a pedestal as a pioneer, if you will, in the organization for being willing to adopt and change quickly. And we try to get to the hard questions. We try to answer them. One question from a business leader is, we have this tool. They want to use it because it's faster. And it takes less away from their customer service when their employees are engaged. We also have folks that tend to ask questions like from IT. So how much longer does this give us? And then you have the hard questions, like from your customer support representatives. Is this going to replace me? Does this mean that I'm not going to be needed? And absolutely not. And the key question for all of those groups is, how can this tool help you be better to serve our customers? For our trainers, well, you don't need me anymore because they have my guide? Absolutely not. How are you going to use that tool to help foster our objective of a pro-learning culture? So there are definitely a lot of connections between the two. And I think the key is, if you make sure that they understand the benefits that the solution can bring to them, the benefits for the business, and really the key message is, we are making an investment in a tool or a technology to help you serve our customers better. This is just something to help you have a leg up. And when they feel like they have a voice, they're very eager to help us and deliver on our commitments for the project.
No, thank you, Barbara. That is such a powerful, statement of the experience. I think at the end of the day, it is about helping those individuals. It's all about empowerment. the empowerment is what translates into the ways that how you help them adapt to the system, and that pretty much improves the experience and engagement, and they're all interrelated. I think this is and I have one aspect of this. I'm going to turn to Sherriann about this. We talked about quite a bit from Barb and Ashleigh about a lot of the involvement of the user, the empowerment and the training and the constant engagement. When do you think is the right time to involve our end users? Can you share your experience on what the engagement timeline that you see would be the perfect recipe for success?
Absolutely. Thank you. And the short answer is as soon as possible, as early as possible. I think it's absolutely critical to engage those end users throughout the process. As Ashleigh and Barb have already talked about, too often the development of the system is almost exclusively focused on the functionality, the process, making sure that that is all smooth without fully taking into consideration the experience of the end user. So I would say the earlier you can pull in the end users, the better. Even before the system is being developed. In our case, we're in the middle of rolling out a new platform that comes with a framework, but there's lots and lots of custom development that's going into the system. So even before all of that development is started, shadow those end users, see what they're doing. What is their day-to-day like? Where are their pain points? Where are their challenges? So that if you can factor that in, you see that. And that can also be used to factor in the digital adoption platform. And, with my guide, we can incorporate that in and we see, oh, this we know is a pain point. So we need to make sure that we include this in the training and the guides to help support them when they're in that moment of need. What we know from research studies is that adopting new technology is primarily based, successful adoption is primarily based on two primary measures. The perceived usefulness of whatever the technology is, right? So what's in it for me? What do I gain from using this? And then the perceived ease of use, right? So how easy is it going to be for me to use this technology? And if the end users don't have a positive attitude toward those two measures, your adoption is not going to be as successful. You can still force them to use it, but they're not going to be as fully engaged and champions of it. And that attitude comes across when talking with your customers. So I recommend pulling in at least a small group of users as early as possible. Include them throughout the process, through the iterations of development. Bring them on along with you so that they can test and provide feedback and keep them engaged throughout. And using a digital adoption platform can help keep them up to speed as you roll out those enhancements and changes and updates. So the more involved you can keep them and the earlier you can get that started, I think the better off you'll be and more successful your adoption will be.
Thank you, Sherriann. I think this is engage early as soon as possible. That's a message. I think that's pretty important. I think I see there are hundreds of audiences tuned in. I like to go to the different aspect of, since you guys are the leaders, executed this successfully in various organizations that you worked with. I'd like to get your insights on operationalizing this entire digital adoption for this transformation programs. There are a few questions that I gathered from audience and also from the conversation that I had been having with the various transformation leaders across the globe. I'd like to go back to Ashleigh. Ashleigh, what has been your experience in terms of methods and technologies that the users can utilize to be successful on their own? Do you see it is all about technology that can solve the adoption problem, or there are other methods that we need to couple with along with the technology so that you can be 100% successful. Can you give us some examples how we can make this entire digital adoption successful for
Absolutely.
your organization?
Yeah, sorry. So absolutely, we've been implementing a digital adoption platform and transferring to a new digital adoption platform, but working through that and adding that to our systems has been kind of imperative to making sure that we're bringing that material right into the system so that our users are able to kind of self-service. You know, the traditional models of training where we would sit in a systems training when the system release took place, you'd spend an hour sitting there and then maybe you wouldn't even get into the system for 6 months because it was something that wasn't a part of your day-to-day job. So now you're trying to remember that there was a training, that there was a job aid, that there was something for you to go back and reference. And now we're really focusing in on almost taking out that piece of traditional training. So we're gaining back productivity. We're not having people sit through an hour-long presentation that may or may not be relative to their day-to-day, or it may or may not be relative to their next 6 months. So we're able to use the digital adoption platform to bring that content right into the system. So as soon as someone goes to do a particular process, we have intervention tools. We can jump in and say, hey, do you need help with that? Hey, do you remember there's a job aid? Click here to open it up. And so we're really reducing the time people are spending searching for answers or having to submit a ticket to get a question answered. We're able to really build that frequently asked question list into our digital adoption platform and bring that all right into the system for them. So it really does help with overall productivity for us in particular, but making sure that we're not only developing the system in a way where we're using that user experience and taking it in, taking it into, you know, that idea of how we're developing the system. But if there are technical limitations, we're able to use our digital adoption platform to provide duct tape or provide something on top of the system to really help with even the way that we're spending time from the IT departments. I know my colleagues here have mentioned that as well, but also just the IT departments love it because they're able to not only self-service in the system with support tickets, frequently asked questions, but they're also able to talk about how they're spending money on the next enhancements. And if it's something that our digital adoption platform can do, we can help with that spend on the other side. You know, granted, it's just moving it from one side to the other, but nonetheless, we are able to be a little more agile in our approach to developing the system and not having to kind of go through the red tape on the other side. We're able to just intervene in that process and help the users along the way.
No, this is very interesting to kind of hear that this is, while digital adoption may be a technology that will help with for everyone to be successful, but it's still it brings a new type of learning culture, right? Which is much different than the traditional learning that we do classroom, and very insightful, I think, to kind of bring in that type of experience, what we expect, and also it's there to help them and to do otherwise how it would have taken longer time. It's a great set of insights here. I do another question, Bob. I like to go to you. There's a two-part question. There is an, you know, while we pick the technology as a solution from a digital adoption to bring in, the engagement, empowerment for our users, but obviously this all comes with the challenge. I think one other one that Ashleigh talked about, it's a brand new experience because it's in the flow of work, right? It's still something need to be introduced correctly. And what type of challenges do you think that we should envision ahead of time during this, initiation of the program? And then also, how do you really measure success? I built the digital action program to ensure that the transformations are successful, but how do we really know that digital adoption investment is delivered the success? Can you talk about the challenges and also the measurement that we can use to see how this has been successful?
Sure, absolutely. So at McKesson, we have My Guide distributed across multiple applications, including Salesforce, which is the out-of-the-box package with the player for My Guide, and then several proprietary applications that are built and maintained within McKesson, meaning someone in our organization has to be the expert of that architecture. So I would say from a hurdle perspective, or something to really keep key is when you're using My Guide through a technology that might not be an off-the-shelf product, the key here is to ensure that you have the technical resources needed engaged early by in the contract environment. Make sure that your technical advisors are speaking with the My Guide counterparts to understand the levels of implementation. But probably I would say the number one hurdle to overcome with My Guide is that very first guide that you publish. And it brings everything together. It is the pinnacle of the mountain, so to speak, and the right execution for the users. And there are so many options. And when you look at the plethora of choices you have to weigh in what's the change to the application and will security allow it, etc. You have to look at the impact of how you plan to use guides, have a very clear strategy. It's important for us to know what users are using what, or it's anonymous. We don't really want to track who did it, just how many did it. And do we have a need to have certain users see certain guides and others don't see them at all? That's called segmentation. So all of that has to be a part of your blueprint for success. And I can't express enough, bring that blueprint and be open to the coaching and the consulting from your My Guide counterparts. We have a very strong partnership with our implementation team and our sales executive. And I can say without a doubt, we've had challenges, but they are right there next to us. They are quick to listen and they act like that. So it's not like I have to wait for 4 releases 2 years from now and put it on a list and vote it up. They see it's a hurdle. They're committed to our success. Our people see it's a hurdle, and they see that we're doing it, overcoming quickly, and that just makes it all the more challenging, or less challenging for us. What I will say is, from a success perspective for metrics, our very, very first project with My Guide was in my department. We're across 6 other departments now in the company. And we went the route of Salesforce, and we used a plugin from My Guide. We needed something quick and fast. We had an opportunity where we have to train users on a technology that they do not interact with frequently. So it might be something they do once a month. It might be something they do once a quarter. But they do, when they need it right then. They don't have time to sign up for a class or go find a job aid in the LMS. So I hear my partners, Sherriann and Ashleigh, both saying, no, that is not going to work. So we implemented our My Guide solution, and our first win was on the learning development side. We were able to take our framework of requirements for the Salesforce product and build our interactions and our strategy 40% faster. We took on 5 other domains within our same Salesforce instance. We maintained headcount neutral, which was huge. So we did not throw people at the solution. We leveraged what we already had a tool to do for us. So we've reduced the cost per learner for systems type training 37%. And moreover, our end users, our learners want to use the digital adoption. They want My Guide. They don't want to go to a systems class anymore. And sometimes they're like, well, we kind of need to talk to you about a few things that's a message. And so we're like, okay, well, let's just embed a video in a My Guide, and it'll pop up and they'll get the message they need. It's just incredible. So we have seen a lot of growth. We have another group that's using Salesforce as a part of a project that we have around vaccinations, and their implementation and their speed to market was phenomenally fast. And so we have had great success. We are looking to expand that, and my team loves it. I'm the director of learning. All of my folks are bought in. They're excited about the tool. The authoring tool is not difficult. You don't have to have a PhD in technology to use it. With a few experts in some real-time sessions, you can get up to speed. So we're converting trainers into developers, and it's just been a win-win across the board. So I hope that answered your question.
No, thank you, Barb. I think the one thing that I never heard before, I think the marrying of the user segmentation in the target application or the transformation where it's happening, marry that to the same user segmentation, how you create in the digital adoption process. That's very important to critical success. I really like that insight because it's very important as they come in, we need to make sure that the assistance help and the learning that we try to offer to, naturally suited to what they came out to do and part of their work. And that's an amazing insight. And also the baselining to before you go out there, baseline everything that you are set out to do and keep measuring it and ensure that the results are delivered. Great insight, Barb. I like to go back to Sherriann about, I got some audience questions here. One of the key question that I saw that I picked this one. The question is, once you implement digital adoption platform, your systems are going to be changing. Your processes around how you support your customer or finance or procurement or wherever you implemented the adoption platform, the process are going to change. How easy or difficult it is to keep it up to date, because most of the assistance and the help coming from digital adoption in the systems. Sherriann, tell us how that looks like, and then how involved that effort, on an ongoing basis, and how important it is to keep it up to date.
Well, it is critical to keep it up to date. So users are using it both in the training environment and in the production environment. So being able to have different versions of a guide in the different environments really allows us to move very quickly and stay and implement updates and enhancements in a very agile fashion. Right. So to give an example, and this is just a minor, very simple example, but we had users in the new system and, one of the feature in it, Salesforce, right? So they're searching for customer, for a member, and they realized, it would be a lot easier if we could search by this field instead of the currently available fields. Right. So IT did their work and made that additional field searchable. But for us to roll out that change, it was so fast and easy to go into the guide that talks about how to search, add in that additional field, and then the notifications that you can push out. So the next time a user logged into the Salesforce system, pops up on the screen with a notification and says, hey, we've made this update. And, you can customize what the notification says to say, you can now search by this other field. We've updated the guide. You can click here to go review the guide if you want to, if you feel like you need to see that, or if searching's not a super difficult function to do, you can just acknowledge that you've seen the notification, and then that gets tracked, right? So in highly regulated fields, the ability to track and see who's completed something, that they've acknowledged it, that's going to be really important. But it was very fast and easy to be able to roll out that change, update the guide, put in a notification, and that's something that we can do actually straight into the production environment, right? Without having to put it into the training environment, pull people off the phones, off the floor, put them through, more traditional training. We didn't have to do all of that. We could just push it straight out to them, because that's, one of the things that we see is that, the speed of change, the pace of change is a theme that's come up earlier in this presentation already, that, companies are anxious to get the enhancement, the new technology into the hands of the users as quickly as possible. But that in and of itself can create friction, because they're wanting to, they're developing, and okay, it's ready and we want to get it out there. Well, then if you're still having to take time to develop and deliver more traditional training, then that just delays that process, and that can create friction within your own company, right? And the employees, the learners, they're going to pick up on that. So if you're rushed on the training, they're not going to get great experience. If you have to delay too much to develop and deliver training, the company is not going to appreciate that. So this really allows us to, and as Barb said, sometimes there are going to be times when you do have to provide some more traditional training to provide additional context. But for faster, easier changes, the My Guide can go just as fast and easy. And some of the additional functionality of My Guide, we were able to, there was a link in the system that needed to be updated. IT said it would take a couple of weeks to get that changed and deployed. Well, we were able to go in and put a button through My Guide and cover that up and send them to the correct link in a day. Right. So we're able to support the users and the company, and it just so much faster.
Well, that's very powerful, Sherriann. I think especially the one example of that you talked about, how you are able to real-time communicate with the users while the things are changing. And that is very, very powerful, because that's where the disengagement happens. The frustrations of user come in when they do not know what's changing, are not able to keep up with. There's already 10 different portals for different I think there's a finance portal, HR portal, supply chain portal, procurement portal, even though communications are all flowing everywhere, but it may not be there exactly where they are, and pushing that into even saying hello while they're getting in there to kind of bring it out as this, weaved into their experience is an amazing way to tackle some of those things. I have time for two more questions. I'm going to pick two questions from the audience. I'd like to go back to Ashleigh about this. Ashleigh, some of this, conversation is about user journey, and we know the journey is not just limited to when on a daily basis for someone to deliver on their duties within any organization. It probably not just limited to one application or one system, one process. They probably span across 3-4 of them. And how successful is a digital adoption tool to kind of glue that together? I believe. What can you share some experience on how that you've seen work in real life?
Yeah, great question. So we do have processes that span multiple systems. I think that's a pretty typical thing that you will see. And I think one of the biggest benefits that we've seen is actually being able to anonymously track due to privacy concerns, but we can track kind of user behavior. We can see where they're dropping off in a process. We can see, did they even make it to the next system? Did they know they were supposed to go to the next system, and really help them along that path with a guide through the process through, system A to system B to system C. I think being able to use the insights data is really key in that user journey for us, because not only are we able to monitor how they're using the systems, we can use that in so many different facets at our company. And so we're able to use that for development, for further system development conversations with the product owners or the system owners, and the different training pods that are out there training these users. We can talk to them about that user data that's coming in the Insights platform, which I think is just invaluable. We also highly use the search field, which is such a kind of simple thing, but what are people searching for? And we're able to really see that in our Insights data. And so we can then notice where our gaps are. We're still on the front side of implementing across 9 or 10 systems. And so we don't have everything answered yet. Not all of our training material is converted, but what are people looking for the most? And let's focus our attentions there. So not only looking at where they might be struggling and being able to kind of intervene, I used that term before, but really get into the process with them, but also where can we take that, further develop the systems, take that and look and see what our priorities are, and where should we be spending the next amount of resources on content. And we may think it's one thing, but no one's searching for that. So let's not do that. Let's take the highest term they're searching for and really focus our attentions on what people need. So I think a lot of that user journey for us, not only is it just kind of throughout the whole process, but really using that insights data that we can gain using the digital adoption platform, just getting that layer on top and kind of again, anonymously tracking our users because, there's privacy concerns in some of our countries that we work with. So just making sure that we're able to see what they're doing and how we can really help do it correctly. Data validation, that kind of stuff is really huge for us, and making sure that we're not losing out on time and productivity when people are putting the wrong information into certain fields. And so always trying to monitor that and really use our systems to help us through that journey.
What a useful insight. Thank you, Ashleigh. Adoption, in essence, is keeping up to date. Keeping up to date is all about listening in and understanding what the user experience is. Just what a useful insight that is, looking into what they're searching for, because mostly what they're searching for is something they don't see in trying to get what they're trying to get done. They're struggling to find their way around the system. Just using the digital adoption system to constantly look for the highly searched keywords within any system to kind of keep you up to date with what they are looking to do, and then turn around, use those as your priorities for your adoption to bring in tool tips or bringing additional help in the flow of work. What a great insight that is, Ashleigh. That's a fantastic one. I have one more question last question. We are very close to the end of the conversation. Barbara, I'm going to go back to you. This is about benefits. I think we constantly struggle with bringing in any useful technology or a solution or a change. There's always a question of benefits that comes in. Would you help the audience in kind of help them understand, in your own experience, have you seen benefits in terms of from engagement? If you are measuring part of your organization, if that gets improved from an individual employee perspective, or some of the operational metrics like reduction in tickets, like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? Or any type of support cost that attributed to helping the users. Have you seen any of these as indications so our audience can take note of it for building their business cases around digital adoption platform?
Yes, sure. So we have just implemented, we're probably 14 days in right now, our first customer facing solution for My Guide. And the analysis is still underway, but what I can share is that as a part of that migration, we have now moved our customer training to more of a role-based curriculum within that application. So that is how we're onboarding that option. So right off the bat, we're saving headcount and redeploying that resource to different tasks. So they're not performing those routine 2-hour, 1-hour training sessions for customers with 1 or 2 people. It gets much richer. We are available on the support side to answer any questions, of course. So that's our initial reduction. We do have tracking set up in our support tool to leverage when folks are calling and asking a training type question. If it's broken, it's broken. We need to be available for that. If it's something that they could have self-served, we're using the tool to answer, and we're anticipating about a 20% drop based upon the analysis that we've done. Time will tell. We'll be checking that a lot through the Insights portal, which is super valuable. I will say too that from a customer training or a employee training perspective, we have recently deployed a very large customer. The support that was required at Go Live kind of caught us a little bit outside what we predicted. So we needed to pull 5 resources in for immediate training. And we didn't have instructors, but we had My Guide. So we sat them down and we showed them the tool. We gave them a list of things to go through, an electronic guide to accompany it. And we haven't seen them in the classroom, and they're doing great. They're not getting errors on their times. Their call averages are spot in line with their peers who have been doing this job for years. And so overwhelmingly positive acceptance there. And they were happy. They made immediate impact. So those are some of the benefits that we've seen initially. We are very excited as we continue to deploy to 3, possibly 4 other customer-facing applications, how we can support. I'll also leave just one last note. Our sales team also has access to applications. And while it is not their role as an account manager to support the how-to, they're frequently asked. in those communications with their customers. And we've just eliminated the need to have them train on those basic skills. They know how to use the tool, they know how to search, and so they're right there modeling for the customer. So lots of benefits, some hard costs, some soft costs, and we've been real pleased with the results. Happy to answer any other questions.
Happiness is a great measurement. If your users are happy, that's a great outcome and a benefit that come out of this. And great sharing that. I also like the fact that you talked about how it reduced the amount of time that the training staff that traditionally have spent in getting the user up to speed and all of that. That's a big benefit that I kind of noted down. Great insights, Barb. I really appreciate it. Time flew by, and I think we are almost at the end of the conversation here. Really appreciate Barb, Ashleigh, and Sherriann. Really thankful for all the insights and this lively conversation today.